You ever just look up at the stars and wonder, has all this stuff always been here? I mean, it's one of the biggest questions you can even ask, right? Well, today we're jumping right into one of history's greatest intellectual showdowns about that exact thing.
So this question, has the universe always existed? It was at the center of this huge, fierce debate back in the medieval Islamic world. You had the philosophers on one side, kind of the intellectual heirs to Aristotle, and on the other side, a brilliant challenger who was about to shake everything up for centuries to come.
All right, so let's meet the contenders. In this corner, you've got these major thinkers like al-Farabi and Ibn Sīnā. Their whole argument? The universe is eternal. No beginning, no end. It's just always been. But in the other corner, you have the theologian and philosopher Imam al-Ghazali. And he's saying, nope, you're wrong. The universe was created at a specific moment. And look, this wasn't just some small academic squabble. This went right to the heart of what God and reality even are.
Okay, so first, let's really dig into the argument that Ghazali was challenging. You know, to really get why the challenger is so important, you've got to understand the champion. And these philosophers, they really believed they had an absolutely airtight case for an eternal universe.
Their whole idea, which was super influenced by Greek thinkers like Aristotle, was this concept of the eternity of the universe. So for them, creation wasn't like a bang that happened one time. No, it was more like a constant, unending flow.
And the logic they used is actually pretty fascinating. The philosophers, folks like Ibn Sīnā, they reasoned it out like this. Okay, premise one, God is eternal and doesn't change, right? So, if God just decided to create the universe at, say, a specific Tuesday, what changed in that moment? Did God suddenly go from not wanting a universe to wanting one? Well, to them, that would mean God changed, and a perfect eternal being can't change. So their conclusion was, God's act of creating has to be just as eternal as God himself. And they had this fantastic analogy to explain it. Think about the sun. The sun doesn't decide to start shining, right? As long as the sun is there, it's going to give off light. It's just what it does. It's a necessary part of its existence. Well, that's exactly how the philosophers saw the universe. It's this eternal, necessary flow coming from an eternal God.
And honestly, you've got to admit, that's a really powerful argument. If you start with their premise, an eternal, unchanging God, then yeah, an eternal universe seems to follow perfectly. It's a very neat and tidy picture. But this is the exact moment that al-Ghazali steps onto the scene and basically says, hold on a minute.
See, Ghazali looked at this elegant, tidy picture and saw some massive flaws. And in his bombshell book, The Incoherence of the Philosophers, what a title, right? He didn't just say, I disagree. Oh no. He systematically took their entire argument apart, piece by piece, with 3 killer objections. And Ghazali's counterattack, it's just a masterclass in how to argue. It's all built on these 3 main pillars. First, he's going to defend God's free will. Second, he's going to make us rethink what change even means when you're talking about God. And third, well, the third one is a totally mind-bending idea about time itself. Okay, so objection number 1. It all comes down to God's free will. Ghazali points out that if the universe just flows from God automatically, like light from the sun, then where's the choice? It means God has to create. The universe just happens. And for Ghazali, that's a huge problem. It basically turns God into a machine, an automatic force of nature. But he believed the absolute core of God was will, was choice. A true creator has to be able to choose to create.
All right, his second point. Here, Ghazali goes right after their main argument. He basically says, look guys, you're mixing 2 things up here. He argues that God can have an eternal will, an eternal plan to create the universe at a specific moment, and that plan itself never has to change. Think about it this way. Let's say you decide on Monday that you're going to stand up at exactly noon on Friday. When Friday at noon rolls around and you stand up, did your decision change? No, it was just fulfilled. Ghazali's saying it's the same with God. The will was eternal, but the action happened in time.
Now this third objection, this is the one that just blows my mind. The philosopher's big gotcha question was, okay, if the universe had a beginning, what was God doing for all that eternity before? Just waiting around? And Ghazali's response is just brilliant. He says there was no before, because time itself is part of the creation. Asking what happened before time began is like asking what's north of the North Pole. The question doesn't even make sense, because the thing you're asking about, time, didn't exist yet. So, after this incredible 3-punch takedown, where does that leave us? What was the outcome? Well, this wasn't just some dusty, abstract debate for academics. The conclusion here had huge, massive ripple effects that spread through the centuries. In the end, Ghazali's argument pretty much won the day, at least within a lot of Islamic theology that followed. His conclusion was clear. The universe is not some eternal, automatic side effect of God. No, it is a deliberate, willed creation. It's here not because it had to be, but because God chose for it to be.
And you can't overstate the impact of this. I mean, it was huge. For one, it put the idea of God's free will right back at the center of theology. It was also a direct challenge to the authority of the Greek philosophers, people like Aristotle, who had been put on a pedestal. And what's really fascinating is that Ghazali's reasoning, it didn't just stay in the Islamic world. It went on to directly influence major Christian thinkers in Europe, guys like Thomas Aquinas hundreds of years later. This debate really did shape the intellectual history of the entire world.
So we're left with this really powerful idea, one that, weirdly enough, you still hear echoes of in modern cosmology today. The debate is ancient, sure, but the final question Ghazali leaves us with, it's completely timeless. If time itself was created, if it had a beginning, what does the word before even mean? It just breaks your brain a little bit, doesn't it? It's something to think about.